Well, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here, the October 10th meeting of the Kentucky State Board of Education. And we begin by welcoming our new interim commissioner, Robin King. Robin, you will give your report a bit later, but if you'd like to say a few words of, I'm here and I'm going to.
Thank you very much, Chair Robinson, and thank you to the members of the Board of Education. I appreciate so much the confidence, the vote of confidence that you've given to me to act as the interim commissioner of the Department of Education. I thought it might be a good idea if I gave you a little bit of my background, so you know, like my journey to come to this position. And I'll save sort of the KDE updates for tomorrow.
Okay.
About what I've been doing this week and how busy we've been. But thought I'd give you an opportunity to just get to know me a little bit better. I am a product of Kentucky's public schools, and so I'm very proud of that. I was a graduate of Western Hills High School here in Frankfort. I am not a native of Frankfort. There's not a whole lot of natives in Frankfort as people come and go here very frequently. But I consider myself the next best thing to a native. I came here in elementary school and then graduated from high school here. I went to the University of Kentucky. I can say go Cats, I think. I got a question on yesterday's conversations with the commissioner. Yeah, at least give me a thumbs up. I had a question yesterday on the conversations with the commissioner as I got to know a lot of the KDE staff here. Are you a dog person or a cat person? And so I'm a dog person by pet, but I am definitely a cat person when it comes to sports. So I went to the University of Kentucky, got my undergraduate degree and my law degree there. Once I left there, I thought at that time that the grass was greener somewhere else. And so my husband and I moved to Florida, and I lived in Florida and practiced law down there for a couple of years. But I'm here to tell you the grass is not always greener, and I miss the bluegrass. And so after a couple of years of practicing law down there, I came back to Kentucky and practiced law here. I was a solo practitioner and shared office space with my father, and learned probably the lessons of public service first there. And then the state government came calling, and I had the pleasure of working as the general counsel for the Cabinet for Economic Development. And there I learned first a lot about our business community and workforce and the importance of that to our Commonwealth. But every discussion always came back to we need quality education in Kentucky in order to attract the very best business and industry to the Commonwealth. And so every discussion, every company we met with, everyone we talked to in trying to recruit and retain our workforce, it always came back to a strong educational system. It is the backbone of everything we do. And then I kind of went through a period where I decided maybe I wanted to dabble a little more in policy and in operations and finance. And so I left working as an attorney as my title and moved into more administrative work here in state government. And so I've worked in the finance and administration cabinet, have served there twice as the deputy secretary. And then I've also been here at KDE for about 13 years on 2 tours of duty. Most recently, you've probably seen me. I have appeared frequently in front of the state board, my office, the Office of Finance and Operations. Of course, we do everything related to the logistics and operations of our school districts. And I will tell you, I have learned so much from my colleagues here in OFO, but really my colleagues across the department. We have high quality, exceptional staff here, and we need to celebrate that. As I had my first leadership team meeting earlier this last week, I looked around the table and I was like, gosh, we are so lucky. We're so lucky that we have the people here dedicating really their lives and careers to the children of Kentucky. So we are very, very fortunate. And that's true across the department. We have people that work really hard, keep kids at the front of our decisions, and really try to do the best for all of them. So the other thing that I'll share with you real briefly, maybe it's a fate thing. I had the pleasure of working as the law clerk in the 48th Judicial Circuit when the Rose case was being decided at the trial court level. I will be very open and honest with you that I didn't know how big it was going to be. But I had the good fortune of having a seat right outside the law library where motions were argued by those attorneys talking about the school districts and the equity and adequacy of funding and everything that goes into education. So I had the privilege of sitting right outside the door of the biggest school law case in the Commonwealth that was happening at the time, and really continues to be in the country and continues to be there. Of course, Judge Corns at that time and William Graham, both the judges there, they called it the school case. They talked about it affectionately of trying to get the opinion right for the school case. And I had no idea that this many years later, I would be sitting in this chair. So that's a little bit about me. It's kind of
That's cool.
A cool story of how I went all the way from a law clerk in my second and third year of law school to sitting in this chair. So I'm very humbled about the position that you have bestowed upon me. And I guess what I would say is I'll do my best.
That's all we can ask. Thank you so much. I believe with your best and our best, we are equal to the task. And it is such a pleasure to have you in this role. I listened closely as you were counting your journey, and what came to mind was what Jason called himself chief learner. I heard you say that a lot, what I learned. I learned. And I think that recognizing and embracing the humility of a learner is also recognizing the courage of a learner. And we appreciate that because we know we got some hard stuff.
We do have some hard stuff
to take care of. Thank you so much for being here. And while we have some members joining us virtually, I will ask Meredith, please call the roll.
Joanne Adams.
here.
Holly Bloodworth.
Here.
Patrice McCreary.
Here.
Julie Pyle.
Here.
Randy Poe.
Here.
Sharon Robinson.
Here.
Lee Todd.
Here.
Steve Trimble.
Here.
Diane Woods.
Present.
Lou Young.
Here.
Alyssa Riley.
Here.
RJ Osborne.
Here.
Secretary Jamie Link.
Attending remotely.
Okay, Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Our first item of business is to welcome the chair of the Local Superintendent's Advisory Council to the table. LSAC Chair Robbie Fletcher will provide an update on the 2 administrative regulations reviewed by the LSAC during their meeting this morning.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Chair Robinson. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Typically, when we have our LSAC meetings, it's usually the week before, and we usually receive a letter with my signature on that to talk about the regulations that we went through. We'll take just a few minutes to talk about our meeting today, and then also talk about the 2 regulations. But first and foremost, my name is Dr. Robbie Fletcher. I am Superintendent of Lawrence County Schools in Eastern Kentucky. I do serve as chair, and as you know, under I think it's KRS 156.007, LSAC is put together to advise the chief state school official and the Kentucky Board of Education concerning the development of administrative regulations and educational policy. In other words, we have some input, and we're so thankful for that. I also want to mention a little bit about LSAC, and I'll try to make this brief. We do have 11 members. There are 7 members that represent Supreme Court districts, and there are 4 at-large members. And I'm going to mention each one of those just because of the role that they serve. Russ Tilford's from Lyon County, Superintendent David Riley from LaRue County, David Cox from Corbin Independent, Karen Solis, and this was her first meeting today, so thankful to have her, from Anchorage Independent, Sheila Mitchell, Anderson County, Harry Burchett from Harrison County, Mike Borchers from Ludlow, Tom Cochran from Johnson County, Kirk Biggerstaff from Cumberland County, and Will Hodges from Greene County. So those are the members of LSAC that meet on a quarterly basis to try to advise our chief commissioner, our commissioner on different means of regulation. So we met earlier today, and I will talk about something that's not that KBE will not be making a decision on. But our first item of business was dealing with the accountability cut scores. We want to thank Commissioner Rhonda Sims, and I'm sorry, Associate Commissioner Rhonda Sims, as well as Jennifer Stafford and Kevin Hill from the Office of Assessment Accountability, and Brian Gong and Laura Pinsino from the Center for Assessment, who brought the results of the Accountability Standard Setting Committee. As you know, that's a very tedious process. We met 2 days in June, 3 days in September, and we went through and looked at all the scores. Again, of course, we don't have names of schools, but we looked at all the scores that were made available to us and set cut points. Those cut points, it's set forth, I think, in KRS, it is in KRS 158.6455, that requires LSAC as well as KDE, which I think Interim Commissioner Kinney will have that opportunity to approve those. I will say that the LSAC members, after much discussion, approved the cut scores by a vote of 11-0. We also had 2 regulations for review and action. The first was Title 702, Chapter 3, Regulation 3330, which dealt with liability insurance. And under KRS 160.105, I want to read this. It's the Kentucky Board of Education shall by regulation require each school district to provide each certified employee of the district with primary liability insurance coverage for an amount of not less than $1 million for the protection of the employee from liability arising in the course of the scope of pursuing the duties of employment. This regulation was at first was tabled back in the summer, and the reason for that was there were some questions on the additional cost to districts. When I say additional cost, it's in statute that we provide the $1 million. Well, what about anything that goes in excess of $1 million? So after some questions, and again, at that time, Associate Commissioner Kinney's group took our advice, and we worked together along with some great questions from Superintendent Burchett and also Superintendent Cochran, and they took this regulation back. And the regulation that you see before you today was approved by a vote of 11-0. So again, another vote of 11-0. And we do, again, want to thank Associate Commissioner Kinney at that time and her department for the work of taking this back and say, okay, we need to relook at this. So it's great that they took that input. It went from there. Again, the end product was approved unanimously. Next, we had a proposed amendments to the regulation to Title 705, Chapter 4, Regulation 231. It was brought forth by Dr. Beth Hargis and Ms. Reagan Satterwhite, and is with the Office of Career and Technical Education. And basically, this regulation had some summary points, and these are the 5 summary points. It was the reauthorization of federal career and technical education standards to the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which is Perkins 5. Also alignment to current state CTE program areas, and it also removed antiquated language. There was alignment to KRS 158.6455 and 703 KR 5270, which deals with the industry credentials. The verification of the state-approved 4 core sequence, and which is a requirement of Perkins 5. So one of the questions that comes up a lot of times with a regulation like this, will it cause any more cost to school districts? There was no additional cost, no additional revenue, no additional savings either for school districts. It's basically bringing us up to today's language for Perkins 5. So again, it was these amendments were approved by a vote of 11-0 after some discussion, and so that went very well also too. And finally, on behalf of LSAC, there was one other thing went on in our meeting today. I'd like to thank the board for asking Ms. Patrice McCreary to come and speak to us about what's our input on the characteristics of the next commissioner. It was a great discussion. It was just an honor to know that KBE wants our input. And it's not just with superintendents. There's so many other advisory councils that you're going to, and you're sending members there to talk to, so we need your input. And I won't steal the thunder of Ms. McCreary, but I will say this: communication and kids were key. There's so many other characteristics, but the very first thing that was mentioned is we need to have a kid-centered commissioner, and what's the best for kids. And then the other thing was communication and visibility. Communicate with everyone. Whether you're in the rural Appalachia or you're in the western coal fields, whether you're in northern Kentucky, central Kentucky, Louisville, Lexington, wherever, just be able to communicate and make those opportunities. So again, there's another long list that I'm sure Ms. McCree will share with you later on, but that was our meeting for today with LSAC. Again, those two regulations, accountability, and also again, on behalf of LSAC, thank you so much for asking for our input.
Well, thank you, Dr. Fletcher, for sharing that report with us. We usually get the letter or the line in every staff note letting us know that LSAC has reviewed and given their input because for us it's mission critical, and we appreciate our being so much being able to rely on LSAC for your contribution. And thanks for staying here to give us a report in person.
Very well.
We appreciate it. Look forward to it. Any questions? We will be acting on some of these regulations. Yes,
I just
go
like to
ahead.
thank Dr. Fletcher and all the superintendents that are on LSAC, giving their time and their expertise, to help with this very important things that they're doing. And it's a very talented group that's on that advisory council, and we sure do appreciate your all's time. And we are very well respected in the things that you all say.
Thanks, sir.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much. Appreciate your being here for your report. And also, Holly, did you have a comment you wanted to make? No, I scratched my head. I just, peripheral vision is working. I also do want to thank you again for your dedication in the work that you do. When we say educator, we mean all of us. And educator who's working in the superintendency is a true blessing to the community and to everybody else who is working in that community. So thank you again for that.
If I may make one more comment.
Yes, please.
The colleagues I work with on a daily basis, when I talk about superintendents, it's amazing to see their strengths and what they bring to the table. If you want to talk to someone about finances, I can name 10 different superintendents who I would call and talk all day with. If you want to talk about accountability, I have 4 or 5 others I would call and talk. The time and dedication that superintendents put into the day of my colleagues, I'm very humbled to be among them. So it's very a great opportunity to learn every time you sit in the group. And also to, again, thank you for this invitation and be glad to come back anytime.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Chair Robinson, it was
Yes.
an honor to be in their midst. You could feel their passion for education in the Commonwealth.
Well,
That you had a really inspiring morning.
I did.
we've also been blessed to be able to work on the accountability committee with.
Right, exactly.
Which I'm still getting over that.
There's some PTSD.
PTSD.
Thank you so much.
Hey, we've got a fun agenda, no matter what your interests. It was interesting. I was listening to part of that meeting, and when I heard them talking about cut scores and all the Teresa's saying, "Oh, yeah." But digging into really important questions of accountability and integrity. It was inspiring. So,
If it's okay, Chair, I would like to add one comment that was made during the process that my soul just sang. They talked about the new commissioner having a vision and how on track Kentucky is for being cutting edge and innovative and so much more vibrant in the learning. And that's their desire to see it going forward. And it just, I have to tell you, I told Superintendent Fletcher, there were many moments I wanted to jump up and shout, "Amen."
one of those be still my soul kind of. But, colleagues on this board, I marvel from time to time that we began by saying what we wanted to do, and it was not a status quo maintain. It was, how do we address the needs of our students in every respect, And we set out an agenda to get that ball rolling, and I think we've got some momentum here. So, Dr. Young, did you have a comment?
No, just echo thanks to the LSEC. I used to be a member.
I did
And
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
there were days. We do appreciate your leadership. Thank you very much.
We'll now move to our internal board business. The summary of minutes for August 2nd, 2023, KBE regular meeting day 1, August 3rd, 2023, KBE regular meeting day 2, August 21, 2023, KBE special meeting, September 14, 2023 special meeting, and the September 28, 2023 KBE Awards Committee meeting were distributed in advance. Are there any corrections to any of these minutes? If not, I'd like a motion to approve them as they were presented.
I make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion or questions? I'll then present the question. All those in favor of the motion to approve these minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Thank you so much. The minutes are approved. Now we'll ask the KBE Chief Performance Officer, Karen Dodd, to facilitate a discussion regarding the KBE mission and vision statements.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you all have a few new members and a new interim commissioner. So it's always a good time to review what you've done as far as some of your guiding statements, in this case, your vision statement and your mission statement. So we're just going to take a look at that today. And I thought I'd start off just with a definition. So a vision statement. If you look this up in Google, you would find quite a few different definitions. So this is the one I chose and that I think makes the most sense as somebody who has done this for education and for business for several decades now. So a vision statement describes the ideal state that the organization wants to achieve. So it's forward looking. What do you want to be when you grow up, kind of a deal, right? A mission. It defines the organization's business, its objectives, and how it will reach these objectives. So I really think the how word there is what's really key. So you know what you want to do, how are you going to do it? So you want some action statements when it comes to a mission. I went through several of the other state websites, really just looking at their vision and mission statements, as well as if they had a board vision and mission statement. And I can tell you that some boards do have a separate vision and mission, some do not. Even some departments I couldn't find. I'm sure they have them, but some of them I couldn't find. The ones I've chosen to present today are not necessarily what I would call the best of the best. I haven't looked through all of them. I didn't go through all 50, but these are just some that I chose just to give some examples of what is out there. So in Hawaii, their board does have a vision statement. The State of Hawaii Board of Education envisions an exemplary statewide system of public schools where students are engaged in an inspiring, personalized, and culturally responsive education that fosters creative and critical thinkers prepared for college and career success and community and civic engagement. Sounds a little familiar, right?
Mhm.
A lot of familiar words there. Virginia, on the other hand, is very concise. This is their department vision, and it is that Virginia will maximize the potential of all learners. Two very different perspectives there. Utah, again, we have a board statement here for their vision. All Utah students are prepared to succeed and lead by having the knowledge and skills to learn, engage civically, and lead meaningful lives. Also very close to ours. Maryland's Department of Education says that they will be a system of world-class schools where students acquire the knowledge and skills necessary for success in college, career, and life. So then, Meredith, if we just go through these one at a time, I wanted to we play a little game here. So first up, see if you can guess which company has this vision statement: to make people happy.
Disney.
Yes, Disney it is. To provide access to the world's information in one click.
Google.
Google.
But the answers, I believe, no. I could even get one round on that.
Oh, man. Okay. Capture and share the world moment.
Instagram.
Instagram.
I appreciate the modification.
To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world.
Nike.
Yes. To accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. I like this one. Tesla. To nourish people and the planet. Whole food. You got it. You guys are so good at this.
I really thought that one was Keebler, but
No.
Hershey's.
Close.
All right, let's look at a couple mission statements. Again, we're going to go back to Hawaii, and their board leads the public education system through strategic direction, transparent policy making, effective oversight, comprehensive systems, meaningful engagement, and vigorous advocacy. So you can see the difference here. We're starting to lean into the actions. What exactly are they going to do? So this is the how that we're talking about now in a mission statement. Virginia, they still go really concise here with their mission statement. Department of Education is to advance equitable and innovative learning. In Utah, their board mission statement is leads by creating equitable conditions for student success, advocating for necessary resources, developing policy, and providing effective oversight and support. And then finally, Maryland, their Department of Education. This one's kind of similar to ours because they break it down a little bit the way that we have with United We Learn for our department. We will ensure a rigorous and world-class educational experience for every Maryland student in every neighborhood that prepares each to be college and career ready through strategic direction and leadership, policy making, and resource allocation and engagement and advocacy. So we'll go ahead and do these businesses, even though now I know you all have it right in front of you. To provide clean energy, electric vehicles to the public while still acknowledging the ongoing transition between fossil fuels and sustainable energy. And that, of course, is Tesla. But it tells us exactly what they're doing. So we know that they're really striving to be that sustainable energy company, but they're going to do it by that ongoing transition between where we are and where they want to be. The home improvement business and our goal is to provide the highest level of service, the broadest selection of products, and the most competitive prices. Home Depot.
Right.
And finally, we strive to offer our customers the lowest possible prices, the best available selection, and the utmost convenience. Amazon. All right, so let's take a look at your vision and mission. Each and every Kentucky learner will become a productive, engaged citizen prepared for school, work, and a happy life. And of course, your mission statement is to improve the future of all Kentuckians by providing leadership, advancing policy, and cultivating community partnerships to ensure every student has equitable access to high quality lifelong learning. So you all definitely meet the definition that we set out to achieve in both the vision and mission. So the question is, are you happy with those statements or do you want to make any changes? So let's just start with the vision statement. What are the words in there that really resonate with you in this current version?
Are those the ones that you like? Is that what you're asking, or what you would change?
Yeah. What do you like about
Okay.
it?
Are we doing the first, what did you like
Vision.
about the current vision?
Mhm.
Okay. And I just jotted down a few thoughts. It's focus on all learners, the current vision. It's concise. At the same time, it's very comprehensive. And the part, it's very inclusive.
Other thoughts?
I can concur with Diane, and having been in those conversations where I wrestle with every learner and all learners, I do like that and these predate us, so we haven't actually tackled these as a team, board team, but I do like that they focused in on the individual learner, and I think it has the elastic quality that it can talk about adult learners in the system too. So that intro phrase appeals to me a lot. When we say all learners, kids and adults get masked and lost in that. So it's each and every is maybe a lot, but focusing on the individual is appreciated.
I kind of like the each and every just because it seems like we really want every child, not, it just kind of
Rather than
doubles down
saying
on that.
all, the big
Yeah.
collective, it is each one, yeah.
And I know some people may disagree with me, but I kind of like happy life because that is the vision, and to me, what that says is that we care about their mental health and them as a whole learner. And I feel like that kind of represents that in that statement, not just as a learner, but as a beautiful person.
Happy life usually means success too. If you're not successful, you're not gonna be happy. So I think that shows success when you say happy life.
And I like the word each because that gets into like the personalized. So you have everyone with which is everyone, but each, like you're really looking at each person and what they want to get out of life.
So as we talk about the Kentucky learner, are we talking about adults, Lou,
I think
also?
it has, I doubt that the original board intended that to be young and old, but it does speak that to me. So when I think about professionals in the system, we're learners one and all. We started out in our pre-chat having that conversation. So, so I do think it speaks to the adults in the system. I don't know how intentional that was.
And that gets into everyone being lifelong learners.
Yeah, the full cradle to grave learning
Exactly.
experience.
It to me, it resonates so well with Portrait of a Learner.
I know.
And there are aspects of learning that just seem, I came up in the reading, writing, and arithmetic days, right? And so knowing the right answer was the way to be successful in school. And this does preparing for school, work, and a happy life means that you've got to be able to address new questions and engage in a future that we probably cannot predict. I think this does very well. Happy life is, we need something to say that there is personal fulfillment to be taken as a legitimate objective of what's going on here.
Yes.
And because a learner trying to do something that they don't know how to do has to be nurtured in an environment where they feel safe and where they will dare risk making a mistake. They have to be in an environment where they can show what they don't know in order to use that as scaffolding or the foundation for getting where they want to go. So I do like that hint of the social mental dynamic that is essential for learning is intended. Now, I'd love to see us be more intentional about all of that.
And I know that you and I had the conversation about happy early on in your tenure, and your concerns resonate some with me in that, is that something we can hold ourselves accountable for? And if so, how would we know we accomplished that? I think visions actually kind of transcend us to a little bit of a higher plane. Missions we hold ourselves accountable for, and we check off our lists and we measure, et cetera. I'm okay with the aspirational nature of that. In fact, I do like happy. But I would offer, interesting that you said that, I would offer that if that is something that does cause us any, because you came up reading, writing, arithmetic, I came up whole child. That movement kind of centered me in the education. So I feel the heart and the aspiration in happy and endorse it, but words like fulfilling, meaningful, successful, to Steve's point, or purposeful might also get us to that compromise place as well.
I would,
So just as a thought.
yeah, I would second that also. And we're already on the second part of the question.
We are.
Oh,
but
Karen,
that's
we
okay.
are.
Okay, that's,
She wanted to
Just
get
wants
us
to watch it
talking,
happen.
so.
Yeah.
that's the reason I did not voice my concern then, because I thought we were talking about what we liked.
Go ahead.
But looking at the productive, engaged citizen prepared to reach their full potential. And when we say prepared for school, that's the reason why I asked you, because most of the time when I think about me becoming a citizen, I'm prepared. School has already prepared me. And that would not be part of the vision of the Board of Education.
But with the adults preparing for whatever the next challenge as educators
Or
might
the next
be.
level.
Right.
Because we might
literally,
think of an elementary student getting prepared to go to middle school.
mhm.
And have we done what we needed to do for that? So, whatever the next level of education is in their preparation to become, to have a happy life. Happy does not resonate with me very well at all because I don't know how we measure happy. When I go to Disney and check in and ride the rides, I'm happy. When I get ready to go home and pull my kids off the rides, they're not happy. What do you mean? We're just leaving, so words like, because I had just jotted down something like meaningful, a meaningful life, which would in turn get to Steve's point about being happy and satisfied.
Could I turn now to our virtual participants and see if Randy, Lee, or Secretary Link want to contribute to this conversation?
This is Lee, if you can hear me.
Yes, please.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think meaningful does have some, incorporates some of the life expectations we like to see people have, maybe happy and meaningful. I'm not sure if you want to double up on that or not, but I'm not that opposed to happy. It is a bit of a fuzzy word, but I'd throw in meaningful as one that I could also support.
Secretary Link?
Dr. Poe has his hand.
I can't.
Yeah,
We have Randy, please. Dr. Poe, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just like, I've always questioned the happy life. I agree with happy. We created, work with the Happiness Advantage and created that culture and boom, but I just like it as work and life ready, because I feel that we have to prepare them. And just as the other statements were said, if they're life ready and we do the mental health and the everything, then they're ready to go off. I'm not sure that we can measure anything past where we are, but they are prepared for a college career and life ready there. So just my thoughts.
Life ready is an interesting term.
Life ready.
Or life, just life.
So Randy, just clarifying, are you suggesting it would will become a
Work.
productive, engaged citizen prepared for schoolwork and life?
Ready and be life
Strike
ready.
happy.
And be life ready. Yeah. Now we'll change it around a little bit. I'm just saying I hear the part about happy. I understand all that, but at the particular time, I can't measure that after they graduate. So I like them to be prepared for life after we did our work, and then they're on their own at that particular time, and we can measure that by graduation rates, but graduation rates at post-secondary doesn't mean they're necessarily happy either. We've got a lot of people with debt and everything else. So I just think that we're asking too much with that word.
I think without any descriptor, though, it's uninspiring. If we I don't want to lose the aspirational nature of a vision, that we want really good things for the children of the Commonwealth. And, landing on a descriptor there that we can all commit to, I think is, it seems flat without.
Yeah.
And I think a vision statement. What I like about this is it feels very accessible to anyone that's reading it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of educational jargon and that kind of stuff. I mean, if you just said like, what do you want for your child?
Yeah.
I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what you say. So, I mean, I could go with a switch. I mean, I'm not gonna like,
I'm not sure about meaningful life though, because my first question would be meaningful for who?
Exactly.
It's for whom is this meaning? I want it to be, if we're talking each and every Kentucky learner, I want it to be that Kentucky learner. When they see this, this is what they want for me.
So what about then for a productive life? What I want for my child individually is my flesh and blood may be happy. I want that kid to be happy, but I'm not sure that I would say that is a qualifier that I could even know if my student was happy. But I would know if that person had become productive in life, they were engaged and prepared to do the job or the vocation that they are in.
And productive is in there.
Yeah, but I mean, if we can switch that around anyway, if we need a qualifier in front of life.
And I'm not sure about the word productive. To me, productive, being a business person, I think widgets. We're talking about people and not widgets.
It also seems a little anti-creative to me.
Yes, yes.
Well, and I was wondering too, when I was looking at the United We Learn, I'm not sure on the track that when this vision was created in compared, I guess United We Learn.
Did we ever
wasn't
find that out, Karen, how
there.
old this is?
I don't know because I did not facilitate this one. So I don't really know when this came in. The last one that I was a part of was where we had each and every student
We did.
prepared with knowledge, skills, disposition. So
Okay.
I thought you all
They
did.
said
too.
we did work on it. There you
Yeah,
go.
I thought so.
I must have loved
I
it.
remember the happy conversation.
We've rolled around it happy before.
Well, and I was wondering if we did want to.
Alyssa.
Happy that wasn't there.
You're right. If we did want to move productive life, when I look at, United We Learn, I feel like when you have a mission and a vision for KDE, I think it should be reflected too here on our board. And when I was looking at the United We Learn, one of the big ideas was innovation. And I thought, what if it said, well, I thought productive, engaged, and innovative citizen. Because I know as a teacher, if my kids are productive, engaged, and innovative every day, I've done my job and they've done their job. So if we really were happy with moving productive in front of life and got rid of happy, could we do become an innovative or an engaged, innovative citizen? And then maybe that way we can start maybe having some cohesiveness between the United We Learn and then this vision statement too. I don't know, thoughts or.
So there's something about productive life.
Yeah,
that
productive
just
feels
fits
a
me
little,
wrong.
feels industrialistic to me.
And when you think of our special needs students, what's productive
Like, what's
for
the
them?
measure? I mean,
Uh-huh.
like what is the vision really? So.
So Meredith reminded me that this must have happened in one of our earliest meetings, either at our retreat at Berry Hill, our first year, or maybe in that first February meeting, although that one was a tough meeting. And so Senator Karam, I think, must have been chair at the time, but Meredith said she believes the only change we made was that we added happy. So there we go.
So I would love to hear from our Jay and Secretary Link. So I'll go to Secretary Link first and then come back to you, RJ.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The only thing that I might throw out to the group would be, as we talk workforce development and talking about getting people into a good job, I've taken more to calling it a career. rather than a job or rather than work.
Mhm.
So I might just suggest perhaps for consideration, prepared for school, career, and whatever adjective we're going to choose for before life. But I think it's more than just work. It's a career.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
Good point.
Seems, that seems,
Easy switch.
yeah, very much appreciated. Thank you. Because, you know, the most satisfying careers, it's like getting paid for doing what you love.
Yeah.
So,
Makes for a
and
happy
it's
life.
work. What?
Makes for a happy life.
And
It's
that's
successful too.
right. Love and success. RJ?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is when you were talking about productive and how productive was just like kind of sounds like they're doing it for everybody else. I think if you added successful instead, successful sounds more like it's good for them and their community and the people around them too.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Success has more reciprocity implied. It's not just the
Internal and
individual. Okay,
Instead of happy,
Appreciate-
successful, RJ?
Productive.
Productive.
productive. Okay.
Do you like happy still? or not?
Yes.
All right, Karen, where are we?
Well, so what I have so far, each and every Kentucky learner will become a successful, engaged, innovative citizen prepared for career and
For school, career,
School, career.
for school. Did I not say? I'm sorry.
School,
For
career,
school,
and-
career, and
some kinda.
some kind of life.
And a lot. If they're doing all that, they'll have.
Well, that is the truth. I
Yes.
mean, there is,
You just can't measure happy.
you,
So
yeah,
vision.
but you know, this is
The
our
vision.
vision and we're not gonna. I'm not gonna, the vision, who's gonna measure the vision? It's, we don't wanna lose the inspirational / aspirational quality of this. I think what we've said is pretty daggone inspiring, if you will, and states a very bold aspiration for what we want in for every Kentucky, each and every Kentucky learner. Now,
Leader right now.
say again.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
because
right.
I can't type.
Okay. Leaner would be good. I've done that.
ARNER. Oh,
I don't know, innovative citizen doesn't,
Transcription.
yeah, innovative citizen doesn't work for me there.
success.
Innovation is definitely in the Kentucky DNA though, so I know where Alyssa's coming from. Do we like,
And I think, you know, I listened to some of the observations that Dr. Todd has shared around the workers that we are going to need. It's like, yeah, they have to know some stuff, but they also have to know to
Create.
be able to create stuff. So the side of science and creativity is not, it's the same, it comes together as he sees it in terms of the economic impact.
Yeah.
How'd I do, Dr. Todd?
Amen. Can you hear me? Amen, I said.
amen.
I like the,
Got it, amen.
I do
I'm
like,
learning from him.
I do like the creativity aspect of it. We saw a play this last week at UK Opera and it was pretty creative and
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't a relaxing play to watch, but it was meaningful. And creativity is, does cover quite a bit of territory. Innovation seems to be more like it is an economic development term. You want to be innovative and get patents, but creativity involves that type of thinking as well as artistic and public service and other ways you can be creative. So I like creative.
Yeah, I think I would.
Can we do it alphabetically? Can it say a creative, engaged, and successful citizen? Can we do? I think that's the teacher in me coming back, and those descriptors be alphabetized.
One thing Diane mentioned that keeps popping out on me is
I would go
it says
for a
prepared for school. Is
Yeah,
it
I'm
college? Is it first grade? I mean, is it, what are we, I mean,
I think it's all of it, right?
I think-
Pipeline.
so.
Yeah, that'd be the pipeline.
But the way it reads, it's like it's the end of your,
Well, isn't a
academic
vision,
preparation.
isn't the vision your overall ending goal?
that's why I thought maybe college is, would
Exactly.
be better than school.
Yeah, because they're already in school.
Yeah.
True.
As you
You're
define
right, our
Every
vision is to-
Kentucky
is to
learner.
Yeah.
Get them ready for after school, after
But
public.
you all oversee K-12,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we're,
Right.
so this board and the Department
Yeah,
of
that
Education is preparing them for the next
Right.
step
Level
of
of
You could say
their
like your,
school or career, whatever they choose.
I don't mean to throw a wrench into that. That just kind of stands out in my mind.
So,
You hear college and career ready all the time. So I guess that's kind of what's
right.
in my.
That would make sense. That should be our vision. Should be. As I said, get them prepared for that level.
So how about this? We're going to end with for school careers and a life of learning. No, that's not inspiring. I'm sorry. Even as us. Yeah.
Cluster on the way.
Yeah, it did.
Want it to be
Uh,
something that we can, that we
How
can really
many
take
want to
part
keep
in.
it happy?
I'm okay with
I
that.
could keep it happy. I do.
Everybody looks nice.
I look at Diane like, oh no, Diane, I'm so sorry.
I thought instead of school, it was like continued learning.
Okay.
I'm just asking.
I'm
Like,
just throwing it out
Well,
there.
some of that's in our
Something
mission
different.
though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
Next
right,
so
right.
Prepared
right.
for continued learning career. Never mind.
I mean, prepare for the next level of learning could speak to anybody, whatever that looks like. And that's only a couple more words. We do remember like the succinctness of the vision
Right.
as a statement.
Level of learning?
Level of learning doesn't.
No,
yeah.
no, because learning is more organic than that. I mean, it can take you sideways and be very, very fruitful. It's, I mean, thinking of it hierarchically,
Wrong message.
wrong message. Karen, we're having trouble coming to consensus on this. So I am going to suggest that we keep working and bring a draft version to our next meeting. And if anybody wants to do some wordsmithing and some, working with us on this, I'm volunteering Lou to stay at the table on this with me. And anybody else that wants to, let me know, and we'll work away from the table because we can't just keep going around and around during our meeting. But this is an important conversation, and I see it's interesting. Those of you I can see, everybody's thinking really hard, and that to me is an inspiration. Karen, I hope you're satisfied with what you have provoked. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, may I ask one question before we adjourn this part? Are we not going to talk about the mission also, or just the vision?
No, we will talk about the mission as well. I don't want us to miss getting feedback from you on the mission. So how about we give ourselves 5 more minutes and just take a few notes on the mission. Thank you.
All right, so let's start the same way. What do you like about this mission statement? It's up on the board.
I like the equitable.
I think it's well done. I like it better than the vision.
I like the lifelong learning.
It's well said and it's concise. It can be measured. There were just a few words in there that I questioned, but basically I thought it was good.
I agree. I think we could hold ourselves accountable via a scorecard to providing leadership, advancing policy, cultivating partnerships, and ensuring equitable access. So to me, this does speak to in terms of um, uh, hard ways to measure the work that we do.
Ms. Dodd, the only thing I would ask you to look at, or whomever's going to do some more work on this, the future for all Kentucky learners instead of Kentuckians.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what our job is.
Say again?
Of all, oh,
In that first sentence.
Kentucky learners.
All Kentucky. I thought I heard one of our virtual participants.
I don't think it was Steve said that's what our job is.
Oh, okay.
You all be glad that's the only thing I found.
Do we wanted to, where it says ensure, where it says every, would we want to kind of go back to that vision and say each and every student, since we have that in our vision as well,
Yeah.
just for that cohesiveness?
And I did put each in it. Leave over.
Yeah.
Got that.
Any further feedback on the mission statement?
I think it's really well done too. I guess my only question is that first part about improve the future of all Kentuckians. Is our mission, I mean, I think that's the question. Is our mission to help Kentucky as a whole for all Kentuckians through the work that we do with students? Or are we specifically our mission just to improve the future of our students?
I thought it meant, I perceived it as meaning for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Kentucky's.
Our mission is to work through our education system so that the Commonwealth of Kentucky and as a whole benefit. I think that brings in a lot more stakeholders.
This is Lee.
Yes.
One thing that stood out to me in one of these statements previously was advocating for resources. And maybe advancing policy covers that, but we really sometimes find ourselves as the only people in the state that are advocating for the resources that it takes to pull this off. And that struck me as something that is part of our mission.
We're getting ready to continue in that vein in a pretty intense manner, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you. Further observations on the mission? We've got quite a bit to work with here. I appreciate this conversation. Are you ready to trust it to a drafting group to bring back to you for further deliberation? I sense that there is a consensus of the board that that's how we will proceed to revise our mission and our vision and mission statements. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Pleasure. Our next order of business concerns the goals and legislative priorities. This is an discussion action item. I am going to ask the board to please turn to that material in the portal. And Brian should come and help us help support this conversation.
Good afternoon.
So you will note that, we've looked at this document before, and we have talked about our additional revenue requests, and we've talked about some of the legislative priorities that we want to take into this next session. And we've presented a draft that kind of brings it all together with in a document that is it's very inclusive. So we'd like to get your reaction and if at all possible, your approval of such a document at this meeting. So.
And Brian, you might share how we've used these in the past in advance of and throughout the legislative session.
That's a good question. I started at the start of the last budget session, so I'm not sure how we've used these in the past. Here at KDE, generally speaking, this is just a nice one pager that really succinctly sums up what the departments and the board's goals for the for the budget session are. So those include the additional budget requests that they're at the top. If you'll remember, the board went through the ABRs several months ago and ranked them individually. And so this reflects your all's top ABR priorities. There's obviously more ABRs that are going over to the General Assembly for consideration. These were the top ones. And again, trying to limit this to one page because from the Assembly's perspective, they just get flooded with stuff during the session, especially during a budget session. So the easier and simpler it is for them to look at and understand, the better from my perspective. The other items on here are things that the offices here at KDE have brought forward as priorities. Some of these are already in progress. So OCTE has been meeting since the summer with legislators to talk about the funding formula, the funding distribution formula. So this is not a request for additional funding. If you'll remember last budget session, they got an enormous increase in their budget, and that allowed them to provide funding across locations equally to CTE programs. And so so they're working on a way to codify that distribution going forward so that all CTE programs will be funded equitably going forward. So it's a really big win. I'm really excited. I hope we can get this one across the line. I think it's going to be a really popular win, especially for those supers and principals of comprehensive high schools that have less than the 5 pathways that have previously gotten them to that funding level. So it's a big step forward and a big change for the state. The AP funding changes that language was in House Bill 1 from 2022, which was the budget bill. So the changes there are likely going to show up in the budget if we can get those changes there. It's a small tweak that would allow for some more flexibility in how to use in using those funds and would allow OTL to use some of those funds that are not spent on actual exam costs to provide for supports for students and staff, teachers, with the goal of increasing scores on those tests. So just a little added flexibility. It would also allow for those funds to roll over and not expire. We've asked the offices to go through and look for statutory cleanup that we can think about for this session and even into the short session in 25, but really as a way to reduce burdens on districts. So this is things like reports that are being required or that are required but aren't looked at or utilized, data collection, coming from the data side of things. One of the first things you learn in data classes is if you're not going to use it, don't collect it. And so are we doing that right now? Do we have things that we can clean up that would ease the burden on districts and hopefully then on teachers? A lot of what I hear is how burdensome some of the requirements are on teachers that are not actually teaching requirements. So we've asked the departments, the policy advisors to look at that. And then, so the facilities items you see there, if you'll remember, former Representative Ed Massey sponsored House Bill 678. That was essentially a 2-year pilot that changed how those facility processes work. I think that the word from the field is those are very popular changes and have streamlined things. And so this item is looking at whether or not to codify them. We've had some early conversations with folks about potential bill sponsors on that item. We have not yet identified a bill sponsor or started really that draft process. And then the other one's kind of related to that in terms of, again, reducing the burdens on districts. The other thing I'll add to these is when we met with some legislators regarding our ABRs. We got a request to put forward a proposal on how to do paid student teaching. So this is a big item. It's been up for it's been a topic of conversation for the past year and a half that I've been around. I think it probably goes back a little further than that even. I think that this is a very unifying topic from when it's come up in committee. All different sorts of legislators are supportive of this idea. There was actually a bill filed last session. It did not get assigned to committee, so it didn't get heard, but there was one filed. So we have put together a proposal. Just kind of briefly share our kind of a two options that we're throwing out there. The preferred option would be $8,000 a semester. You get to that number because 70 days of student teaching at 7.5 hours a day at $15 an hour get you to right under that number. So we just rounded up to a nice even 8,000. If you do more of the instructional day, in quotes, for about 6 hours a day over those 70 days at $15 an hour, you get to about $6,500 for the semester. So those are the two numbers we'll throw out for consideration. Our preference from the department standpoint is that there would be no strings attached to this. This sort of mirrors what's already done for the high demand fields with the Work Ready Scholarship. That has no strings attached to it. So those students that receive that scholarship are not required to work in the state for any given time. Doesn't convert to a loan. Right now, the teacher scholarship is one of the only two scholarships that does convert to a loan. So just to put that on the radar for potential consideration down the road. But we'll throw that out there without recommending no strings be attached. I think it's likely that they do get attached, in which case it might have to go through KIA because we're not set up to do the tracking and turning things into loans, that sort of thing. But that's just, just want to make sure we got that mentioned because I think that's been a big topic of conversation. And obviously we would love to see student teachers get paid, even if there are strings attached. That's still better than not getting paid. So good.
So board members, our consideration and approval of this document gives all of us the opportunity then to represent this as the voice of the board on these legislative priorities that are legislative opportunities associated with these three priorities, which again conform with United We Learn. This is carrying forward our aspirations now into the policy world. We will be seeking opportunities, seeking to recognize opportunities to advance policy in the direction of these goals. But in order for us to use this as a part of our advocacy work, it should bear the approval of the board. So we bring it at this time before the legislature opens up, but during the time of plenty conversations at the state capitol and in our communities where folks might have an interest to know, well, what does the board want to see happen? Well, we want to see these three goals advanced through policy and through the allocation of resources leading in this direction. So I was trying to find the right way to make clear why this is even on our agenda, because we've seen this language, we've seen, but we need this tool. So I will ask for a motion to approve this document.
I so move.
I
Is there a
second.
second? Thank you. Further discussion.
I guess I'm excited to see this document because of previously being on the BFF team of the United We Learn Council. This gives some teeth to that group in the work that they're doing. So it's all aligning together. So this is like the next step in moving things forward. So, yeah.
Oh, it'd be wonderful to bring it to the Cool Council and say, this work is it's so congruent with this idea of how to bring about change that is not just pie in the sky. It is at the grassroots, and we're taking it throughout the system, including the policy and resource allocations.
Well, and the part that's not inside the system, the separate silo is still the legislature. So this starts doing the pull in of the legislators.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's clear. It's right here, one page.
Mm-hmm.
We can memorize probably all of it, and we're speaking with one voice. And we're not out there grappling, oh yeah, I think we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but we go back to the source. So thank you so much.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you all.
I do have a question for Commissioner Kenny, and that is two actually. And we had the conversation around ABRs when it came to our state schools, School for the Blind and School for the Deaf. And if you could remind me, is this, I think we wrote it in such a broad way that your conversations can be around salary support, because we're still in that funny position when it comes to the department picks up the differential cost for raises because there's no proper funding mechanism. And so that more specifically is what we would be lobbying for here, right?
Yes, exactly. You know, our state schools, KSB and KSD are tied to the Jefferson County salary schedule. And so that is not included automatically as far as step and rank.
Correct.
And so we are always advocating for step and rank to be included in sort of our base, so we don't have to worry about that every single time. So I think the wording in the document lends itself to supports that.
Excellent. And then I agree with Brian's assessment that districts are pleased with House Bill 678. Can you remind me what 162060 does? I'm forgetting final design plan authority. I thought that was in House Bill 678.
No, it's as far as that's not specifically in 678, but you know, when we get to the point of design, we're trying to shift back to the local authority to be able to have control over those change orders and that back and forth type thing. So again, it doesn't have to come all the way to the Department of Education to approve those.
Which there's always then a backlog.
So I think that helps us continue to support local control and advocate for that local control. The only thing that I would point out about 678 that the department still feels very strongly about that's not included in 678, and so we would be advocating for is professional development for our facilities. Our facilities main person in our school districts. As local control shifts back, a lot of that local control, there's responsibility, accountability that we need those professionals, and they are professionals in what they do, to have adequate training to really know the statutes, the regs, the policies, the manuals, all that protect. Because remember, 678, they still have to follow all the statutes and regs and everything else. It's just they're doing it more independently and not having the department kind of approving each step. So we still, we will advocate for professional development for those professionals.
So having been steeped in school financial management and support for school business officers, does the agency have the capacity to provide that professional development?
I don't know that KDE needs to provide that. I think we are very open and receptive to having other partners, external partners, help us with that, just like we do in other areas of professionals in our school districts. So, and we've heard from some of those professionals that would be interested. I think we would appreciate and have to have the opportunity to approve that training so that we know that they're training to what needs to be trained. But certainly we could do that in a collaborative effort and make it accessible to local school districts.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
With that clarification, yes, please.
Yeah, I don't disagree on the training that our interim commissioner just talked about. I would hope that if we do training that we separated it into two different approaches, similar to back at the chief financial school officers when we started training them, that we have existing individuals that have had extensive 20 years into this, and then we have people that's just coming through, that we have either, a level 1 or a level 2, that we differentiate the learning or the professional development so that there's more of, like, for example, an update versus someone coming into the profession new that needs a level 2 or a level 3 type of training, so that we differentiate this. Because when I was working back at Boone as a chief financial officer, I went through all 3 years, but a lot of that training at that particular time was very repetitive. And I know that we had people there for a while. So I would just hope that we would differentiate the training.
Thank you, Dr. Poe. That's an excellent comment. We're very receptive to differentiated training. Whatever training we offer, it needs to be meaningful to the participant. Because why are we having training if it's not meaningful? It's not valuable use of their time. So we have some districts, of course, that do capital construction and are working on projects every single day. They have in-house architects and professionals there, and we could all probably learn from them. So to have a differentiated path for those, to have something different and meaningful, updates on laws that may change, regulations that may change, et cetera, versus someone who and it works in a district and they've been tasked with this along with other things that they have to do just because of the size of their district. They're wearing multiple hats and they might only do a construction project once every 5 years.
Right.
So a different level of learning for those professionals.
Chair Robinson, just to clarify, so there are 2 documents in the portal, the goals and the legislative priorities. So we will need to amend the motion to approve both documents if we're able to do.
Okay. I would ask the board then to entertain a motion to approve the proposed 2023-24 KBE goals and legislative priorities. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Oh, thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Further discussion? I will call the question. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all.
Now we'll move to the next item, which is the 2023-24 communications procedure, also in the portal. Is there someone who wants to present this, or shall we just begin this conversation with a motion?
I'll move the KBE Communications Plan for 2023-2024.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. All right, the floor is now open for questions and comments and debate.
The communication seems to be so complete. You know, I can't open the email without there being something from someone about something that's going on. And if it's in a usable format, I can read it quickly and see what's going on. But I'm not sure what else could they do? What else needs to be added to the plan?
It works for me.
Works for me too.
All right, I will call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Thank you so much. We have adopted a communications plan. The next item concerns a report from our awards committee. I'll call on Ms. McQuarrie, please, to make that report.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. This is in discussion of the Kevin C. Brown Priority Award that changes over time, each time. So Kevin C. Brown served at the Kentucky Department of Education in several roles from 2004 to 2018. And most recently, as you all remember, he served as the interim commissioner of education from December 2019 to September 2020. Brown's time at the department throughout 2020 was certainly marked with significant challenges, and it called for strategic educational leadership and clear ongoing communication that was forward-thinking, action-oriented, and aimed at advancing efforts to educate, feed, support, 650,000 students during a global pandemic. No easy task. The priority area for this award does change, as I said, from year to year based on the desire of this board. And so on behalf of the awards committee, I would like to share that our committee did meet September 28th and identified the following strategic priority award area and criteria. A portrait of a learner. This is not going to surprise you because we live, eat, and breathe this discussion. A portrait of a learner is an agreed upon set of school or district level aspirations for what every learner will know and be able to do when they leave school. A portrait gives school leaders and teachers that framework to design instruction to feature deep and meaningful learning experiences in such a way that promotes real-world competencies and job readiness. The 2023 award seeks to recognize a school or district who, through policy and practice, makes it a priority to support the successful adoption and implementation of a portrait of a learner. So that criteria would include significant contributions and or other efforts to support the successful adoption and implementation of a portrait of a learner by co-creating with communities a set of competencies for all learners, development of a performance assessment system, provision of deeper learning opportunities for all students and educators, and adoption of local policies to support deeper learning, instruction, and assessment. And we do know that this is taking place throughout the Commonwealth in several locations. So we anticipate some excellent applications coming through. I would like to move approval of this strategic priority and criteria for the 2023 Kevin C. Brown Strategic Priority Award and ask the chair for the board's consideration.
Thank you so much, Ms. McQuarrie. The motion is on the table coming from the committee. It does not require a second. The floor is now open for questions, comments, debate regarding the priority for the Kevin C. Brown Award. Hearing no one wishing to debate, I will call the question. All those in favor of approving this priority for the criteria for the award selection, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Committee, you have your marching orders. I do expect we'll have some very interesting applications.
Love it.
This is great, great work. Thank you so much. Our next item is the consent agenda. Which contains 4 items. The appointment of the KSD Advisory Board, the 2023-24 tax rates levied, the hearing officers report, and the litigation report. Now, as a reminder, these items, which require a vote, consist of the consent agenda, and it allows for approval in one action. KDE staff identified these items as those that are non-controversial and routine in nature. The consent agenda was distributed to members in advance of the meeting to allow sufficient time for review. At this time, I will ask, are there any of these items that you wish to remove from the consent agenda to be moved to the regular discussion and our action section? Let me make sure I query the virtual participants. Can you help me with that if there's someone that needs to be recognized? Okay, thank you. All right, seeing that no items are wished to be held, I would like a motion from the board to approve the consent agenda and the 4 items that it includes. Is there such a motion? Ms. Powell, thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bloodworth. I will put the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you so much. We have approved the consent agenda. At this time, we're going to dismiss as a full board and move into our committees. As a reminder, in August, we created 2 new committees. One, the United We Learn Teaching and Learning Committee, chaired by Holly Bloodworth, and the State Schools Committee, chaired by Dr. Randy Pohl. The United We Learn Committee will remain here in the state boardroom, and the State Schools Committee will meet in the Commissioners' Conference Room. So there is an agenda for both committees. The United We Learn Committee will discuss local learning labs and portrait of a learner, the competitive grants for state assessment, and the Kentucky United We Learn Council update. The State Schools Committee will discuss the Kentucky School for the Blind, the Kentucky School for the Deaf, with an update report, and get an update report regarding the Kentucky area technology centers and regional academies. So if we would now move to our committee meetings, and we will reconvene for action discussion items at 3:35. We're all back together. Let's begin our action discussion agenda with a report out from our committees. Holly?
Yes. So our committee had great conversations and some really good reports. We began with an update from David Cook and Kelly Foster on the local labs of learning, Portrait of a Learner. We have 18 districts participating in those L3 networks, and they have really been key leaders in the Portrait of a Learner work, as well as thinking about what accountability could look like in the future. We were really excited to see that more than 90 districts are implementing or designing their own portraits of a learner. So, I mean, that's like 50%. I mean, we were really celebrating the fact that so many people are early joiners of this. So that's really wonderful. One thing they really call out in that work is that they love being able to personalize it to their own districts. So they like having something to build on, but like being able to have some flexibility and create some ownership with that. The L3s continue to serve as kind of like labs for us, cooking up some ideas around integrating curriculum, stakeholder understanding, and assessment lined with those competencies. Something that David and his group have created is a document that is available for districts to help them in getting started with that work. And I think that has really served well. David also shared an update on the competitive grant for state assessment from the United States Department of Education that revolves around innovative assessment and accountability connected to deeper learning. It's a $3 million grant that goes for 4 years. And much of that funding in year 1 has funded partnership work that's being used to kind of prop up the work of the councils and the work that we're doing. They're talking about year 2 and how that's going to connect. And I just really love how all of these things seem to work together. So there's just some really great updates and some exciting news, I think, of how that work is going forward. Then Karen Dodd talked to us about the Cool Council, and she did a survey. They did a survey. They have 50 that are renewing their work with that, 50 that are going to continue. They've had some that either, through attrition or decided not to continue. They've got 5 people that are joining as new members. So there'll be 55 members. She went over just on demographics and stuff, and it was nice to see that it's diverse. It's got a nice mix, and they did a survey to that group asking about the direction, the vision, the goals, communication, and everything was very positive. They had a few things that they want to tweak and work on. And then she went on to talk a little bit about the 2-day agenda that's coming up. And there are 2 spots for board members to be on that panel. If somebody would like, she said it's first come, first serve. So get your bid in now if you want to do that. But in that 2-day agenda, it sounds like it would be really great to attend because they're going to be doing work groups. They're going to be celebrating the work that they've done. But one of the big things they're going to work on is really define that moonshot. So they've been working toward that, but they have never really defined it. So that's an important part of that work, along with all the other opportunities to work in their committees and things like that. So that's kind of a recap of our meeting. And sorry, you missed it.
Competition going on between the committees. Holly, remind us again, when is the Cool Council
Oh,
meeting?
I'm sorry, November 2nd and 3rd. 2nd and 3rd.
Okay, guys, we're looking to have the board represented in fine fashion. And it's a great group.
Where is it going to be held?
It will be here in the Sauer Building, in the training room downstairs.
We won't get away from here at this meeting without knowing who's going to represent us officially on the program. And
Mary's gonna come.
yeah,
Julie, and
yes,
you too, right?
yeah.
You and Julie, and then she said there was just 2 more spots. So 2.
Just avoiding the quorum.
Yes.
Yeah, right. We can't have a quorum, but I promise you won't be disappointed. Thank you for that. Now for the most exciting committee.
That's right.
I'm gonna call on Dr. Poe, Randy.
Yeah, exactly. Holly, I'm sorry you missed our exciting meeting. We're glad you informed us of what happened there. So you want to talk about the earlier mission that we talked about on Life Ready Skills. We had 2 fantastic presentations with what our schools are doing in the area of Life Ready Skills for our students. KBE Associate Commissioner Greta Hilton and her team talked about the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf. And I'll tell you what, and we met some interesting and great staff, but learned a lot of things that, even as a former superintendent, that I did not even know what was occurring at our statewide program. So it's very educational for us. We had a great presentation, very comprehensive on how students are placed in the least restrictive environments from our ARCs, but not only in our state schools, but servicing our children in our local districts and how we do that. We talked about a continuum of services. As we talked about a placement, there's a wide range of services, too numerous for us to mention in an update here, but lots of great opportunities for our students. We talked about mission, the schedules, and enrichment opportunities. And one of our biggest areas that we need to continue to advocate, and that is on our outreach programs. We have one of the oldest schools in the country in relationship to servicing our students. We're one of 66 schools for the deaf across the country and one of 44 for the blind. And we talked about there how we can help them as a board and so forth in their vision and mission and their goals. And one of the largest activities that we plan to cover in the future is working on outreach opportunities for our students within the schools of the blind and the deaf. The other program, we talked about our Kentucky area centers and regional academies. That was led by Beth Hargis and her team. Our ACTs and our regionals, there's over 50 ATCs, 115 feeder districts within those 50 ACTs. We're servicing over 20,781 unique students through those programs. We have 6 to 8 major pathways with 16 clusters that we're working on. Some of the areas that for post-secondary readiness, industry certification, end-of-year assessment, CT dual credits, co-op internships, and the track program. 76% of our graduates last year were post-secondary ready. That was over 18,000 students, and they're looking for that number to be increased when the test scores are released later in the month. We went over 12 elements of high-quality CTE. Some of the main components of that is student voice and student choice, work-based learning, and learning to fail forward strategies, because in the area of training, that's what's important, is not where you start, but where you end up, and how do you learn across that process. Project-based learning is the major form and fashion of learning. We have one of the best ATC programs in the state, in the country, and our student organizations are leading the way. We talked about, once again, in that vision and mission and being life ready. Student engagement, the theme going forward for this year in the ATCs is train today and own tomorrow. So we're sorry you missed that great committee meeting because there was such tremendous things being told, just like your committee. It is a shame that we only get to see one half of that, but because we got so many great things going on, we do have to split up. But we learned a lot today. But the biggest focus of our committee meetings was led by Sharon for what are we going to be doing for the future to help each other as a state board and our state school districts that we operate. And how do we continue to leverage those in the legislative session to support them as they continue to move forward? So that concludes our report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Well, it seems as though we are planning a forward-looking agenda in every regard for our state schools and for our innovation efforts, and seems like we're on a roll. Any further comments or discussion? We are going to be drilling down. I think our committee is on a learning journey to understand how we can help and where the points of leverage might be that we would bring back to the full board. And if there are policy issues that we need to address, certainly funding issues will be on everybody's mind. Yes.
So Chair, I'd like to mention, so previously I've served on the advisory council for the Boone County Area Technology Center. So I kind of got into the weeds a little bit there.
Oh, good.
The
Okay.
issue that a number of our technology centers are having is faculty and staffing. Because of the areas that they are in, they cannot, because of the pay scale, attract people from industry. And so it's the chicken and the egg. If you're going to have people in the pipeline to be able to move up, we need instructors. And so maybe encouraging that committee to maybe work on some way of not only just attracting, but maybe working in conjunction with employers that maybe they can release employees to cover, do one class a day or something, because they're a number of the schools are at risk of shutting down programs because they don't have instructors. They have students to go in, but they don't have instructors.
Or even a sabbatical for a year.
Yeah.
If we could grab a
Creative.
really
We gotta be
highly
creative.
qualified instructor to help us on a sabbatical for a year and maybe rotate out those each year. Yeah, we're really, I will say the career and tech ed folks here at the department, as well as our Division of Resource Management, working very hard to fill all of our positions here, Area Technologies Center being one, as well as our KSB and KSD. We, as residential facilities, of course, we always are struggling with that. A lot of it is about the pay schedule and the competition that we face, especially in the more metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Seems like some things are kind of universal and it just gets more so. So that's going to be interesting to understand, where do we want to intervene and how can we help? I mean, the workforce has to be something that gets addressed immediately. Otherwise we can't operate. And I think partnerships and getting creative probably represents the order of the day, right? We can't think about it the same old way. Thank you for that.
This is Lee. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Randy, you mentioned 76% were post-secondary ready. How is that determined?
It's determined by our accountability system and the KRS, and that's through the different pathways. They can get internships that are certified, end of year certificates. I'm looking for my notes. And industry certification by passing end of year assessments, the COSA exams, CT dual credit pathways. I think you have to have 6 hours within those, and or the co-op internship by earning the hours. Then there's a track program, and I'd have to have staff or someone explain that because that one's a little bit more to me. But it's based on our state accountability assessments. It's lined out in the KRS.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like two really intriguing and productive committee meetings. So thank you so much. Our next item is amendments to 705 KAR 4:231 General Program Standards for Career and Technical Education Programs. We'll ask Beth Hargis and her team to join us at the table. Reagan Satterwhite to present the proposed amendments.
Good afternoon, and thank you again for the opportunity to report out in the committee meeting. That was fun, and we appreciate that. So we are requesting continuation and amendment to 705 KAR 4:231, which is the minimum program standards for secondary career and technical education programs. Perkins 5 is the primary federal law established to develop and support career and technical education programs at both the secondary and post-secondary levels. So the proposed amendments align the language of our general program standards for CTE to Perkins 5, and this really does help ensure that Kentucky's eligibility will remain active for these funds. The amendments include updated program areas and removed some outdated language. We've struck all references to the word vocational because we're trying to update this, and so we've changed that over to career and technical education. And today, CTE is much broader and more inclusive than it has been in the past. Many areas have been added, including STEM programs, and of course we have healthcare, manufacturing. And the amendments also include references to industry recognized certificates or credentials, and those are approved by the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board. And finally, the amendments to this reg include the Perkins 5 requirement for schools to comply with offering a state-approved 4-course sequence of courses for the pathways, or a local district can request to modify and have one that is specific to the local area. And then again, lastly, it includes a reference to student organizations as a co-curricular part of the pathway. And we are happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there questions? That was a very succinct summary of the amendments. Hearing no questions at this point, I would ask the board to entertain a motion to approve the proposed amendments to 705 KAR 4:231 General Program Standards for Secondary Career and Technical Education Programs. Is there such a motion?
Madam Chair, this is Randy Poe. I make the motion.
All right, and we have a second from Ms. Adams. Further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much. That was a real succinct and pithy presentation. Our next item regards the whole school, whole community, whole child update. And we'll have school branch manager Jim Packett to provide an overview.
Is that actually Patrice?
He's
Oh, he's up there. Okay.
I did want to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If that's okay, if that's all right, Chair, I'd like, I know it's been a busy day and we're winding down, but what you are about to hear, every time I sit in on these committee meetings, hope Jim's listening in. Every time I sit in on these committee meetings, these whole child committee meetings, I think of the physics egg drop experiment, where you construct a safety net for that egg so that when it is dropped from the highest point, it lands safely. What Jim has done through his work here at the department is developed a great physics setup for keeping the egg safe. And that egg, there are children across the Commonwealth, developing a structure of support so that wherever they land safely. So thank you for giving your attention to him. I wanted him to share the good work that's taking place.
Oh, that is so good. And we are so welcoming of all the good work. And Jim.
Oh, he's up there.
Jim's up there. So if I can share for just a minute, I'll jump in here too. Jim's online. At the table, we have Che Ritter. Che is our Director of District Support Services. And Jim on screen with us is a branch manager of our new school health branch. Jim and members of his team have been working on this for a long time. And I appreciate the kind words of Patrice. And Holly is also a member of our subcommittee, because remember, this group that Jim is going to report out on today is a subcommittee of the KBE. So, and I will say that my involvement with this group, it is somewhat amazing, because this group brings people from different walks in the whole child, different entities, different agencies. We have other state government agencies there. We have interest groups, and Jim's going to get into this. I don't want to steal all his thunder, but to have that type of collaboration, all with the same goal of having the safe egg as the center of their discussions, it really is amazing. And it's been sustained over years. It actually started with a grant proposal that Marianne Miller did. And so it has had that, the momentum has kept up all these time. I will say during COVID, of course, we're always concerned about the whole child, and whether we're talking about mental health or physical health, PE, nutrition, all those things. But I think really this group kind of got its second rebirth with when COVID was happening, because it seemed like those things were all pushed more to the forefront. And so I'm really happy that Jim is here. Che's at the table also, in case we have any questions. We'll jump in. Che, do you have anything you want to add before we start?
Thank you. I think this is a really exciting thing. And, you know, when the branch was created, I think Rob and I started talking about this during COVID. Of course, hindsight's wonderful. Wish we'd had it before COVID, but we saw a great opportunity. And I'm eternally grateful. I don't lose any sleep because we have such great experienced people already in that branch. Unlike a completely blank canvas, we already had most of the paint on there. And we're slowly but surely sort of expanding field staff, et cetera, which we're really excited about the future of that branch. And Jim you will witness, Jim does a wonderful job of explaining what it is this committee does. The pressure is on you now, Jim. Thank you.
Thank each of you all. I think my presentation is over now. So I want to take just a few minutes to share a little bit about how we got where we are, and then open it up for your all's questions and thoughts and comments. But as we begin this afternoon, I want to talk a little bit about health. And I started with this quote: "Health and well-being have for far too long been put in a silo, both logistically and philosophically, and it's been apart from education and learning. Charles Bosch in his meta-analysis, Healthier Students Are Better Learners, called for a renewed focus on health as the missing link in school reform and helping our students to move forward and be prepared for life. So I'll give you a moment just to look at this, but I really feel like this helps us even beyond COVID think about the role health and education play together, not independently. Next slide, please. So many times people, we hear a similar question or the exact question that is on the screen. Why school health? Where does school health fit in the mix of education? And in these bullets that are on the slide, I just want to point out a couple. One, we are in the business as educators as creating lifelong learners, whether that's in early childhood, preschool programs, or even higher education. That is our charge and our task. And for us to not think about health and well-being as part of that equation, I think is a oversight. If you look at the second and third bullet, you might say this is a chicken or egg scenario. We continue to see research that talks about health and wellness creates higher academic performance, and the opposite is true. Because students are healthier, they're able to engage, learn at increased levels. So this is really hard to separate in the equation as to which comes first. The fourth bullet talks a little bit about lifelong learners, and our hope is for our students to be able to apply the knowledge, the skills and behaviors beyond the school year or beyond the school day itself, so they can carry that with them the rest of their life. And then finally, we know our schools are microcosms to communities and our families at large. So we have to be willing to be a part of that solution and help our students and, quite honestly, even our staff be able to apply that in their daily learning with us. Next slide, please. Again, I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but in looking at our youth risk behavior survey, and I will note that in your board packets, we included 3 additional documents, 2 of which are our youth risk behavior survey for our middle and high school students. And then most recently is our profile data, which comes from our middle and high school principals and lead health education teachers. But what we see is that those students that are A and B students typically will have better health outcomes and lower health risks, as you see on the slide, than those who are not performing as well in the classroom. Again, research continues to support that more and more as we look even deeper into these issues. Next slide. So I feel like the graphic at the bottom of the, I'm sorry, is there a question? No?
No, please proceed.
The graphic at the bottom of this slide, I really think says it all. As we heard earlier in the meeting, it's really a partnership, and we'll talk a little in just a minute about some of those partnerships that has made this work so successful. But we often think about our root causes and strategies that will help our students address some of these items that are on the slide. But in all honesty, if we're doing this independently and not in a thorough manner and looking at multiple pieces of this equation, then oftentimes we are spinning our wheels. I like to think of it as our kids and our students don't come to us as separate compartments with each of these issues going on in their lives. This is a whole child that's coming together. So we need to think about how we can solve some of these challenges and celebrate the successes in a synergistic way, as opposed to trying to break them out. Next slide. I liken this graphic to a hurricane, and quite honestly, sometimes when we're looking at the framework, it may feel like a hurricane as you try to implement and look at policy, programming, partnerships, etc. But this is the whole school, whole community, whole child framework, which was created by the Centers for Disease Control and ASCD. So an education as well as a public health entity to really figure out how we can best meet the needs of our students and catapult them into their future with bright success. This is the framework that we operate on as I talk about some of our funding that we're receiving, and the group which was previously mentioned by Interim Commissioner Kenny. Next slide. So part of our work really is geared around infrastructure and the creation of infrastructure, not only at our local and district level, but at our state level. And it's important for us, I think, to think about what we are able to do, who we bring to the table, and truly collaborate and work through with. And we should not be, we should be doing the same thing that we're asking of our schools and districts. So our WISC subcommittee, as we affectionately call it, really is comprised of, as was mentioned, Patrice and Holly sit on that as KBE members. We also have several different branches and divisions that sit on that within our department, and I've listed those for you. As we move to the next slide, we have some of those external partners that have been with us for quite some time. And you can see those not only state agencies, but you see some nonprofits, you see some other entities that are critical in helping us move the needle of education and health outcomes forward in our state. This committee or subcommittee meets usually the day before the state board meets. We met yesterday, had some great discussion, great updates and sharing among the various folks. And really, it's about creating those partnerships. It's about looking at policies, looking at challenges, looking at resources that are out there, and we're not trying to recreate the wheel. It's really, truly about what is on the radar, how can we come together, pull our resources, our thoughts, and assist at the state level or local level in moving our needle in education and health related. Next slide, please. I will agree that this work has been going on for close to a dozen years now, and thanks to Mary Ann Miller. But I really feel like Kentucky was well positioned when COVID did hit, and a lot of that was around the subcommittee because of the relationships that had previously been in place that continued to develop and deepen. There were some conversations that probably would not have happened or not happened as quickly if it had not been already established and moving quite well. So I want to take just a moment to share the landscape of where we are in Kentucky in relation to our school health branch. Kentucky was recently awarded another 5-year cooperative agreement through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. You see the actual title of that. That means we receive $390,000 annually to do this work. And then in a separate cooperative agreement, we receive $100,000 annually to conduct our youth risk behavior survey and our profile data survey. So not a great deal of money to do what CDC has asked us to do. We actually have 3 staff to be able to do that. We were in the application process this round. we were asked to identify a priority district that we would be working heavily with in the next 5 years. That district is Fayette County. In the last 5-year cycle, we worked with 9 districts, primarily in eastern and southeastern Kentucky. So that does not mean that any of the other districts cannot participate, but Fayette County will be receiving some targeted work with us around professional development, technical assistance, as well as infrastructure development. I wanted to also mention the new school health branch. We're excited about that, but that is on the horizon, and more to come on that over the next several months. Again, I only hit a couple pieces that are going on within the department. Project Aware, we were fortunate to receive a 3rd round of funding recently for that. Stronger Connections funding, competitive funding through the Title IV Part A. And then most recently, the Full Service Community Schools Initiative, which is an exciting opportunity for us to look at health and education as that rolls out as well across the state. So a lot of opportunities, and this subcommittee truly is doing collaborative work, truly is looking at how we can best support one another as we move forward. Next slide. So as we wind down, I want to pose this question to each of you. As we start with a new branch, as we continue to expand our partnerships with others across the state and identify new folks, what is your vision of school health across our Commonwealth? What has been your experience with school health? What do you envision happening over the next several years around practices, policies, programming, again, data collection, and being able to connect the dots with all of our partners is a huge and a very important piece of that. So as we continue to build this and evolve as to the needs of our students and what we're hearing from our families and our communities, I would ask you to think about that, and please provide us any input or any ideas or questions that you have around your vision of school health and other topics that maybe you would like to hear about in regards to a board, whether that be in a written report or another presentation at some point. Next slide, please. So my last slide is, again, we're going to end with a quote. And Lloyd Colby actually was an early creator of school health at CDC, and really was instrumental in looking at how school and education and health really supported one another. So as you read this quote, I would ask you to think about, as we move forward, what can we do? How can we position Kentucky not only to reap what we have, the benefits that we have sowed in the past, but how can we be an example and a beacon for others to look at in the future? I think that is my last slide, so I'm going to pause there, see if you have questions, comments, or anything.
Well, thank you so much. I have to tell you this, Patrice was right. The vision of the whole school, whole child, whole community is, I mean, it's easy to say, right? And then how do you find some place to start to make it real? And student health is a particular focus that kind of begs to be addressed. I guess even more so after the pandemic, but I think we were maybe not paying enough attention even before the pandemic. So please, the floor is open.
I just think about all those non-academic factors that we tend to overlook, or we're assuming students come to school ready to learn. This is one of them that sets students up at the very beginning to be unsuccessful or to really have to struggle with that. 'Cause I know what it is to go home and not have food on the table, not wanting to go to the dentist and parent saying, we're not going to waste money on a dentist, use some salt and a rag. So it's very personal to me, and I'm excited about this partnership and the way that it's being done, because it is the whole community that's affected.
I think some of the striking information that we saw yesterday throughout the committee meeting were the numbers of students who are getting their physical needs met as far as illness goes within the school itself. They shared numbers of how many have been to the nurse in the building and how many were able to return to the classroom rather than being sent home. It was staggering to see the number of hours that are not lost learning. It just makes sense.
So it is also, I think, really encouraging to see the diversity of the partners at the table and the perspectives that they could bring to helping to put together, kind of a whole solution. It's not as though we have to think of doing it. We couldn't do it by ourselves. And it's not whole cloth that we start with a lot of resources. So yes, Julie.
Are there students on the committee?
There are not students on the committee at this time.
We have
At
discussed
this
it.
time.
We have discussed it.
Okay, that topic comes up.
But the movers and shakers that are on this committee are people who are key individuals within the state for social emotional health, for physical health. Dr. Connie White is on this committee. Help me call out some more names that they might recognize.
Melissa Goins, who's the director of Friskies, is a member of our group. The Pritchard Committee usually attends. It's just a really well-rounded group. And I find as these folks get together and talk about things, they learn from each other about short-term needs. So if somebody gets a grant or gets funded in a particular area, they can use that grant sometimes to help another partner. And then they also talk about long-term needs or the long-term vision of what school health looks like in Kentucky. I think we would all love the piece that we would have nurses in every school to support what Patrice was talking about, the number of hours that our students could stay in the classroom. They could get that healthcare service right there in their school. We've got some districts that have to share nurses, and so they have to travel from place to place. And so to have that ability to have it right at your fingertips and the value that it brings to the family in not having to take off work, come pick up your child, transport them to the doctor or nurse, and then come back. I mean, that's a whole day of productivity for that adult as well, that they're missing out on something at their work. So I just really applaud this group because they're very conscientious about their discussions. Sometimes we have our silos. We only work in one place for one agency. And this is probably the best example that I've seen in my many years in state government of something that really works. And I think it's because people come to the table with the right heart and the right head in place to be able to just make it work. So I really hope this group we can even utilize more as in the future because they're a really great group to work with.
Even the last conversation we had yesterday involved vaping. That's something that's pretty much new on the horizon for us. And my question was, do we have any data showing that vaping is occurring in our elementary schools? And that's not gathered through our system right now. And yet other members stepped up and said, oh, we have some of that information. We are addressing that. This is what we're doing. And there again, I thought, there's that egg. There's that egg. They, everybody's got that, the kids' backs, in this, it's amazing. And I know for a fact, because I was at the conference this past spring with them, Kentucky is ahead of the game. And Jim, I applaud you. You do a great job of orchestrating the group and building their strengths and making those connections. We're again on the cutting edge of something.
Are most of the school nurses supplied through the Department of Public Health in some kind of collaboration?
In Boone County, they're private.
Yeah, most of those now are district folks. They're district employees. There are a few public health contracts, but those have really diminished since budgets have been crunched. And then we're having emergence of federally qualified health centers. So some of our schools have actually school-based clinics, which can even provide more services than necessarily just a school nurse. So they can prescribe, they can treat in those clinic settings as well.
And I think some of them also provide dental and vision. I mean, it really is the whole wraparound services for both students and staff.
Pretty amazing. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm one who likes to dream big. I love the moonshot stuff.
Yay.
So in Northern Kentucky, we have the emergency shelter in Northern Kentucky. And when they built their new building, they built, in addition to what they needed, community rooms. And so their community partners come in and use those rooms and do, because then they're meeting the people where they're at. They partner with St. Elizabeth, and St. Elizabeth pays for a nurse to run their clinic, kind of things. Is there anything, and I'm going to go dig into the facilities stuff, in the facilities regulations that impede schools from being able to build those community spaces so community partners can come in and meet the kids where they're at? I know sometimes the space is an issue.
I'm going to turn to Che. We've been working on, of course, our revisions to the regulations and the construction planning manual.
Oh, nice.
And so we are trying to, excuse the pun, but break down walls so that districts do have more flexibility to do something like that.
Awesome.
I think it has to be a coordinated effort because, especially based upon the funding that you use to do that. So you have to be careful about that. And especially when you're inviting community partners to come in, because those buildings and the funding that it's based upon, of course, it's very important that the school is first, and students are first. But I believe that our new regulation will allow for that as long as we're cognizant and districts are thinking about that funding piece of it.
We're also being a little more, I think, deliberate with the school nurses and giving them the appropriate sized room, whereas before they may have gotten a closet.
Yep.
They may have gotten a classroom. It was very, odds and ends. So I think we purposefully, our facilities folks and through input from others, I think we reached out and talked to our own school nurse people who in turn reached out to districts to get some input. What do you need to have a very good school nursing program at a high school, elementary, middle? And then what they do beyond that, and Robin's right, the word flexibility must have been said 1,000 times. The box that they're building, inside of that box, they have a lot more flexibility. So if they did want to in the future add a community health room or whatever it may be, or just I think a meeting room, so that school health, or public health could come in, or whoever to do vaccination clinics, they would have the ability to just build that right in. And also keep in mind privacy of students, FERPA, and privacy of patients and all of that as well, because that's obviously very important too. So,
I believe Dr. Todd would like to comment.
Oh, please.
I just wanted to mention that Jim made a nice comment at the very beginning, which made me think he should have said on our mission statement. It said, we have students be prepared for life. And prepared for life is kind of an interesting statement. It doesn't say happy, it doesn't say meaningful, it doesn't say some of those things, but being prepared for life, it really struck me as something that was pretty meaningful in his presentation. Just a comment.
And Chair, I would add, just to draw a bright line between this conversation today, Julie's question, and kind of our ongoing work where things are beginning to come together. The U.S. Department of Education has kind of fallen back in love with the notion of full-service community schools, which date back to the 60s and 70s. Diane, you may remember Pat Michaud in Fayette County and the work that happened there. And so I know that several Kentucky districts applied for federal full service community schools grants. I think Johnson maybe. I don't know if those have been awarded yet. But again, thinking about the gestalt of all of these whole child opportunities that are coming together, and then thinking about the partnerships that we've talked about today, school resource officers, any partnership with local law enforcement, because that's what they do well. School health, any partnership with St. Elizabeth or public health or Connie White, that's what they do best. But thinking about the school as the place where kids and families are most present, and then really thinking about how we can build in the flexibility so that we have those spaces dedicated to the kind of intentional collaboration that happens in a full service community model. And I mean, I really feel like we're kind of on the verge of really embracing that idea for our communities.
I really commend this board. I think we've had a rich agenda. And this is kind of like the icing on the cake, so to speak. Yeah. I'll eat cake. This has been more than a productive meeting. It's been an inspiring one. And we will reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. But at this time, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I will ask Meredith or Stacy to give us any details or further information about this evening.
Yes,
please.
there's a reservation tonight at 6 o'clock at Longhorn Steakhouse. If you are interested in joining the board for dinner, no business will be conducted, Todd Allen. It will be simply discussion about hobbies and grandchildren per our general counsel's guidance. So if you are able to join us for dinner, that will be at 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's great. 6 o'clock at the Longhorn Steakhouse, and it's all about pets and grandkids. Now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I will ask for all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. A great meeting. See you tomorrow.